Hello, my name is Chandler Callahan, and this is my budget analysis project. This was a sample budget that was given to me and will be used in representation of the Johnson Wales Emergency Department. This report is an annual report showing the comparison between this year and the previous year. HCA was a healthcare company driven by the mission to provide a commitment to the care and improvement of human life to everyone. This company was founded by Dr. Thomas Frisch Sr., Dr. Thomas Frisch Jr., and Jack Massey in 1968. Dr. Frisch Sr. stated that bricks and mortar are not what makes a hospital, but the people do. This was the beginning of the HCA healthcare mission. This is a screenshot of the budget that I'll be using. The part of the budget that stood out the most for me was the medical professional fees. Medical professional fees are the amount of money that a medical provider will receive for services and treatments offered to patients. For December, the budget showed that the unit pocketed $13,492,000 when it was projected to spend $23,751. This means the difference of $37,243. It is very odd that the company is profiting off of a suspected expense. This category itself could be a major contributory factor that impacts patient care and outcomes. In the aspect of patient care, if the medical providers are charging for services and fees and treatments that are not necessarily evidence-based, or given on evidence-based, then the out-of-pocket costs could be falling back on the patients, which is why we're making more money in the hospital instead of paying for the external fees that are not contributed. Patient outcomes in care can be affected by supplies and salaries and wages. Often supplies runs out in the emergency department due to high volumes and unnecessary orders that are being placed that aren't based on evidence-based practice. This can cause a mass shortage in the necessary supplies that are needed to deliver adequate patient care, and indirectly it affects the patient care being as optimal as it should be. Another aspect of the budget that affects patient care indirectly is salaries and wages. If the budget does not have enough money to keep people on the clock, or as in like flexing employees when the census is too low, or it doesn't have enough money to keep people on staff in general, then it can lead to uncontrolled patient-nurse ratios, sometimes as high as 1 nurse to 24 patients. This not only affects the nurse who has to deliver all that care to the patients, but it also leads to patients not receiving adequately timed care. Organizational procedures to assess the patient outcomes. The budget allows the unit to analyze the amount of money utilized in different aspects to their unit and determine the allocation of funds to better help the healthcare workers and the patient population. For example, I work at a neuro hospital. We have to use, in a certified stroke center, we have to use portable monitors to take a patient who is suspected of a stroke from the unit that when they come into the emergency department to the CT. The quoted amount of time that a patient is supposed to have in between coming in the door and going to the CT scanner is 25 minutes. It should be no greater than 25 minutes because it contributes to the decrease in their care and the decrease in them to fully recover if they are having a stroke. If we have a decrease in these monitors and we have an influx of stroke patients that are coming in at one time, then one or multiple of those patients who are considered could possibly be having a stroke have that risk of having a decreased amount of full recovery, decreased chance of having a full recovery because we don't have the supplies that we need, which directly impacts the patient care. Managing the budget. On my unit, the main person in charge of managing the budget for the ER is our nursing manager. She keeps up with all the supply orders, the supply shortages, the employee salaries, the increased risk and revenues acquired in the unit's day-to-day expenditures. The nursing manager may also allocate financial responsibilities to the clinical nursing coordinators regarding different unit-specific financial expenses. In revising the budget, the nursing management, after going over the budget with the clinical coordinators, of course, and the director, or with the clinical coordinators, will then take that preferred budget after looking at all the things that are needed for our unit and give it to our unit director. And then after our unit director looks over it and checks all the boxes to make sure that it looks good, she then takes it to the hospital financial executives to ask for a revisement or an adjustment for better success rate for the end user. When communicating the budget needs, the nurse managers and directors are often the middle person or the liaison between the unit staff and the hospital executives when trying to communicate what will be for the budget and what needs to be revised for the budget. Some expected items for the unit and unexpected items for the unit. Expected items are items that are projected not to change or vary in the budget. Some examples of this would be like supplies, the lease rent, utilities, salary and wages. Those are things that are expected not to change or vary too much. Unexpected items are items that are affected by unexpected healthcare events. So some unexpected items that are affected would be an increase in acute inpatient admission, a decrease in ER visits, or a decrease in revenue collected on the day of service. Some recommendations that are for the unit, facility, and patient care. The expected items are things that affect the flow of the unit and in other aspects could affect patient care directly or indirectly. And then the unexpected items are things that will not only affect the unit, but could affect the hospital as a whole. And that would have to do with like admissions or holding in the ER. Those would affect both the unit itself and the hospital as a whole. Some recommendations for improvement and generalized recommendation. A change in the amount of utilized out of network services. So in the ER, sometimes we have to contact other facilities, especially for like our psych population or specialties that we don't have in our hospitals. If our sister hospitals that are in HCA are not available to accept that patient, then we have to contact out-of-network hospitals or services, which end up increasing the amount of money that we dish out to organizations that are not HCA affiliated. So if we could limit the amount of out-of-network services that we use for those, then we would be able to save money in that aspect. Another recommendation would be the medical professional fees. In our budget that was shown in the screenshot, we projected to use around $23,000 in medical professional fees that we were supposed to pay out, and we ended up making $13,000 or around $13,000 in revenue from that. If we were to adjust that fee or usage of the medical uses of money for the medical professional fees, we would be able to reallocate those fees elsewhere. Recommendations for the unit-based recommendations would be an introduction of a better system to track supply utilization. Often in the emergency department, we'll just go into the supply room and grabbing things for the patients because we have to move really, really quickly to do patient care. But in the process of grabbing things quickly and moving to do patient care, we're not tracking the amount of supplies that we're using at that time. So it makes it difficult to have an accurate number on the budget for how much we should have for supplies rather than how much we actually need for supplies. So introducing a system would make that a little bit easier. And then We should also assess the possibility of change in the salary wages category on the budget. A lot of our salary wages is increased due to the amount of money that we pay out to travelers. Travelers come to the unit to help relieve the patient-nurse ratios, but in the aspect of how much they get paid versus how much the core staff get paid, if we adjusted that rate and made it to where the core staff got paid a little bit more, not as much as the travelers, but a little bit more, you might be able to reallocate funds for the budget as well in regards to that aspect. For the scenario that was given with the 5% cut, reallocation of funds or reprioritizing funds, I chose reprioritizing the funds would be the best thing to do for this budget because one, the medical fees were projected to be way more than they actually ended up being, and we actually made more money on the revenue front of around $37,000. We ended up saving or making on that revenue front for the medical professional fees. So if we projected less or took even that fund category away and reallocated those funds or reprioritized those funds, that would be beneficial for the budget. And if we revisited the salaries and wages aspect of the budget and maybe took away the travelers aspect instead of paying them that higher rate that's sometimes double the amount that the core staff makes and readjusting the core staff salary, you might be able to reallocate some of those or reprioritize some of those funds as well. In conclusion, HCA is a company that utilizes its budget and allows all of its departments and staff to give recommendations for change. Even though this budget was not specific to my unit, I am sure that many hospitals in HCA exhibit successes and challenges similar to the reflected budget. And this is my reference page. Thank you.